pour one out. It's the last Raging Loop stream, and then this will be deleted from the system. Guaranteed. I'm going to stream Happy Friday night. We're going to read the last story of Raging Loop. Surely this isn't over like 2 hours or anything. And then depending on how we feel after that, we may switch to something else for a bit. I think the other night I was like, oh, maybe we do another little part of Bubsy. So maybe we do that. I don't know. I don't know what the other thing would do. Maybe Nier Automata would be the other option, but I don't know if I want to do that tonight. So, we'll see. Sorry, I felt like I was going to burp there, so I was holding for a sec. Didn't come. Yeah, this is stream... Is it 31, technically, of Raging Loop? I could easily check if I was lazy. No. The last one was 31. This is 32, the final Raging Loop stream. Sheep versus Stack of Reports, it says. A documentary. Documentary. One's dream is another's reality. An entity viewing everything from outside the story aims to recap the incident from another viewpoint. Yes, let us recap the whole story, please. And tie up loose ends. Let's begin. Report, writer, Mitsuji Misamine. Date, 8/21, August 21, 2003. Summary, I somehow resolved it. The end. God damn it. Did you finish your summer homework? Can't you tell just by looking? I ain't suited to writing this crap. With rights come responsibilities. The church seeks complete compliance with those principles from its members. Yeah, I know. Reporting on Jinx-like activities and joint suppression, was it? It's necessary, I get that. Still? I keep cutting her off. I never learned. Still, don't change that this ain't really my thing. Man, I wish a meteor would fall on my head. Same. In a summer vacation mood, are we? It's easy once you get used to it. I gotta take care of this to get used to it, but I need to be used to it so I can take care of this. Such a pain. You sure it isn't the idea of contacting your ex again that's got you all bothered? Oh, so I'm right. No, that's part of it, but I just really hate reading and writing shit. True. After all, it doesn't look like you read that preliminary report I worked so hard to write. Sorry. I'm worried about you. I know what it's like to have so much dumped on you right after joining. But it's during missions like these that information priority must be preserved at all costs. You're right. Keep that in mind. Sigh. I'll go brew some coffee. I'll take a look afterwards. Wait, no, I'd feel bad. No need to hold back. Though we recommend self-reporting endeavors, it's not our duty to suffer over unreasonable demands. I plan to provide help when you need it as your watchdog. Wait there, okay? After her blindingly white superior... Oh, what? Excuse me? After her blindingly white superior left, Mitsuji Misamine let out a deliberately loud sigh. She'd expected grumbling would make a difference in an organization like this, but it appeared to have no effect. In actuality, as a member of their active force, she had plenty of experience with recon and reports. It wasn't her lack of literary talent or her ex-boyfriend Haruaki Fusashi, or whatever his real name was, that was the problem. It was figuring out how to write the report while keeping her power hidden. Mitsuji Misamine was the sheep. Or rather, Mitsuji Misamine was a name she'd simply given to herself as a play on Hitsuji, or sheep. In reality, her true name was simply Sheep. As the name indicated, she lived in a very peculiar environment until recently. I'm gonna move the mic slightly down. Sorry for mic arm noise. Yeah! I'm in a very relaxed position here. Though her current environment was pretty peculiar on its own, after all, normal people were completely unaware of the church. But the sheep's existence was heretical even to them. So she needed to hide her true nature even within the already concealed church. They, had unnatural powers. Here, unnatural powers refer to things that would be generally considered superpowers or magic. Supernatural powers right out of the realm of fiction. Those powers thought only to exist in fantasy did in fact actually exist, in a sense anyway. These superpowers assumed to exist in a certain sense were known by many different names. From the perspective of the church, they were called jinxes. The church claimed that jinxes were superpowers born of beings isolated from human socialization. It was hard to understand when written like this, so the church often explained using a cult and a rain man as an example. There was a man who seemingly brought rain to any event he participated in. This left an impression on the group, who began treating him as a genuine rain bringer. A cult showcased superpowers within itself. Until the cult was exposed from the outside, these superpowers were treated as the real deal. Hello. Happy Friday to you. Even if there were rules that defied common sense and accepted science, there were cases where those separated from human relations could adopt those rules. Therefore, jinxes were where those superpowers existed via this agreement to abandon common sense, also known as a contract. This didn't mean that jinxes were a mere game of make-believe. Rather, jinxes were a definitive phenomenon and threat to the ones who executed contract. But as a result of their nature, jinxes could not be scientifically proven, nor debunked. Thank you, appreciate it. It was a hectic Friday. By the end of the workday, I was mad at things, but I'm glad it's the weekend. Work will be for future me to deal with for Monday stuff. In the first place, it is inherent to jinxes that people who want to prove themselves got repelled from human relations at the very earliest stage. That was why the church advocated for separating the events of the world of jinxes from normal society, resolving them, covering them up. This mindset was incompatible with the congregation, who called for harmony between jinxes and normal humans, and the parliament, who wished to rule peacefully using jinxes. That was why the academia, whose goal was to study what jinxes were and discuss them, were the dominant faction. There were many passing pre-existing religious fundamentalists and destructive ideology groups that opposed the four. Jinx society was spread all across the globe, their numbers said to be in the tens if not hundreds of thousands, and naturally, due to their nature being isolated relationships, there were millions out there that remained undiscovered by Jinx society. This world did not adhere to common sense as well as people thought it did, an opinion shared by those who knew about jinxes. Jinxes could include any unusual abilities as long as those who know about them acknowledge them. From magical abilities out of storybooks like breathing fire and shooting lightning to showing illusions and altering reality, the possibilities were limitless. What? Generally, it is believed that the less a person adhered to common sense, the more absurd jinxes they could acknowledge, or be acknowledged by. Therefore, there was a trend of describing jinxes with the simple phrase, superpowers born from twisted personalities. When put that way, Mitsuji believed that as long as others were as twisted as her, it wasn't strange for them to have those powers. It wasn't just her, it was them. Most of them had been forced to scatter. She was sure the majority of them had been killed. She had been lucky. That, or clever. For she had managed to survive not by fighting, but by choosing to flee. Thus, she needed to keep giving her all, so she could survive, so she could prolong her future. The moment she reached out to her keyboard, she felt a pair of hands from behind gently overlap her own. She thought her heart was going to stop. She hadn't felt that presence at all. White hands, long white sleeves. the superior of ambiguous age she had just been speaking with. The woman's fingers moved, making Mitsuji type the following words like a puppet master. Summary. I, Mitsuji Misamine, survivor of the Salvation Pasture Project, prevented a disaster of biblical proportions.
心配しないで。
Don't worry. A stifled voice caressed her neck.
気づいているのは多分私だけ。あるいは私のようにことを大きくするつもりのない子たちだけ。
I'm probably the only one who's realized it. That, or kids who don't plan to make a big deal out of it like me.
もちろん、こんなものは提出しない。大丈夫。ただし、私には全てを話してちょうだい。あなたを守るために。
We won't submit something like this, of course. It's fine. But tell me everything, so I can protect you.
どこで気づいたっていうか、守るとか、笑わせやがる。
When did you realize it? And don't give me that protection crap.
てめえら教会は、学会の殺処分を黙認しやがっただろうが。保護と隠蔽の大義はどこ行ったんだよ。
The church you belong to was the group who allowed the academia to carry out their calling. What definition of shelter or concealment do you have? Do you even have?
あなたを守るだけで精一杯だった。
It's taking everything we have to protect you.
それだけ家畜のインパクトは大きいのよ。組織だっては守れないほどにね。
That's just how big of an impact the cattle have. So much so that we can't protect them unilaterally.
ああ、そうだろうな。しかしなおさら俺があんたらを信用できねえとは想像がつかねえか。
Yeah, that figures. Can't you see that's even more of a reason why I can't trust you guys?
ええ、信用はしない方がいいわ。私だってあなたのことが大っぴらになるようなことになればかばいはしないから。
Yes, and you're better off not doing so. Even I wouldn't stick up for you if your existence went public.
さも知らなかったかのように羊を見つけたと言って追い立てる側に回るでしょうね。
We would probably join those prodding you and say that we'd found the sheep like we never even knew you.
まあショックのあまり手が滑るとか何かを見落とすとかはするかもしれないけど。
Well, we could say that we were so shocked that we let you slip through our fingers, or that we overlooked you.
それやこれや、口に出していいのかよ。
Sure, you should be saying all that. Or did that awkward pause? Sure, you should be saying all this. I
上
just
の
read that
監視
sentence
手
so
段
bad.
は眠らせてきた。ここは安全よ。
I disabled the surveillance. This place is safe.
何者なんだよ、あんたは。
What even are you?
教会もそれなりに含まれんよ。そこで生き延びるためにはいろいろ知っておかないと。
Even the church is its own little hotbed for demons. You need to learn a lot to survive there.
そうまでしてくれる理由は？
Why are you even going so far? Got a reason?
家畜の能力の有用性、10年後を見越したパワーバランスの計画、あとはあなたに個人的に興味がある不足。
The usefulness of the power of the cattle, the power balance project expected to go into play in 10 years. And because I have a personal interest in you. Is that not enough?
ああ、足りねえ。そんな理由でいいなら虐殺なんて起きなかったはずだ。
Sure as hell ain't. There wouldn't be a need for massacres if those were the reasons.
あなたは政治が分かってない。核兵器は加戦するから意味があるの。
You don't understand politics. Nuclear weapons have significance because they're oligopolized. Jesus. Oligopolized is that word. Now she understood. The cattle, who knew only great misfortune and therefore possessed extremely powerful jinxes, easily numbered over 100, including the actual candidates. If they had been carelessly scattered, there was risk of an all-out war, but there was also a chance that their threat level would fade if they grew obsolete. They could function as a threat precisely because there were so few survivors. As such, they had been culled until there were a select few left alive.
ヘドが出るな。
I feel sick.
繰り返すけど、そこまでしないと、あなたをここまで連れてくることもできなかった。
As I said, we couldn't have brought you here unless such drastic measures were taken.
世界の救済を執行する、逸脱者を作り出そうとする試み、救いの牧場計画。
The Salvation Pasture Project was an experiment that tried to create deviants who would bring about the salvation of the world.
その成功例の一つであるあなたは、コンセプト上は単独で世界を滅ぼすこともできるだけの力を秘めている。
You, one of their successes, theoretically possess a power that could destroy the world entirely on its own.
その危険性を理解しているなら、あなただって理解できるはずよ。
If we understand that threat, surely you do too.
仲間の屍の上に生きる覚悟が必要なことくらいは。
At the very least, you need the resolve to survive on the backs of your fallen comrades. Misuji knew everything she was telling her was true. The kind, considerate sheep that was like a sister to her fellow cattle. She, who was once considered such by the pasture, could no longer retain such a convenient position anymore. She knew that. It was just hard to accept, that was all. So she said it again.
ヘドが出る。
I feel sick.
藤吉の事件の発端はどうってことのない話だった。どの団体も平常の活動としてやってること。
The origin of the Fujiyoshi incident was a fairly standard story. It's a normal kind of activity you see in any group.
隔離された関係性を探して、そこに未知のジンクスが存在しないか調べる。残念なことに、大概は存在する。
You look for isolated relationships and investigate whether there's an unknown jinx involved. Fortunately, most of the time, there is.
それで先行して調べたあんたらが現実改変の痕跡を感じた。それで同系統の能力の俺を連れてきた。
In your preliminary investigation, you detected traces of reality alteration, and so you sent me, someone with a similar type of power.
そうね。教会はあなたのことを限定的な現実改変能力者だと考えていたから。
Yes, because the church believed you possessed limited reality alteration power. She talked like she didn't have one herself. Misuji wanted to ask where they'd found a lead on her, but decided to save that for later.
ああ、そう装ってたからな。しかし実際は本当の能力も被ってたってわけだ。
Yeah, that was a pretext you gave, but in actuality you covered her real power too.
植松里香子。彼女への尋問の記録には全部目を通したわ。
I looked over all the questioning records for Rikako Uematsu.
安息の地を地獄めいた夢に求めた土雲2000数百年の怨念。まさかそんなに大きな話だとはね。
She sought a place to repose in a hellish dream and carried the grudges of the 2,000-year-old Tsujigumo. Never thought it'd be that huge a story.
俺にはあいつが家畜より安全だとはどうしても思えねえがな。
I just can't see her being safer than the cattle.
仕方ないでしょ。今の彼女からは証言されるような強さの魔性が検出されなかったんだから。
Nothing we can do. Couldn't detect any sort of strong from her testimony. They referred to warped humanity that could form the base of a jinx as a, oh, here we go, diabolicity.
今の彼女はちょっとばかり
It's
ひねく
Friday, I
れ
should
た
not be
ク
reading.
ールな知女ってとこかしら。その程度で教会は命を取らないわよ。
Right now, she's just a slightly twisted, cool-headed pervert. The church wouldn't kill her over that.
まあとにかく幸か不幸か相性は良かった。あいつの現実改変の隙間に俺の能力で干渉できたからな。
Well, anyway, for good or for ill, we were compatible. I would exploit a gap in her reality alteration to intervene with my ability.
何をしたの？
What did you do?
現実が夢に変容する瞬間にあのバカと自分の記憶にアクセスして変容先のあいつと自分の脳みそに突っ込んだ。
The moment reality became a dream, I accessed my and that idiot's memories and shoved them into my and that idiot's heads.
あとは意識の連続性ってやつ？魂とか？
Oh,
そういうのをつなげるとかな。まあこの辺は気休めだけどよ。
oh, and the reason he kept his memories was because they were linked to his soul or something like that, I guess. Well, it's merely a constellation of his mind.
なるほど。彼が事件解決に主要な役割を果たす手助けをしたのね。ちなみに 彼が居合わせたのは本当に偶然なのね。
I see. So he played a major role in aiding with the resolution of this incident. By the way, was it really just a coincidence that he happened across you?
ああ、そうでもなきゃ腹切ってでもこの仕事は降りてたろうよ。
Yeah, if it weren't, I would have quit this job even if it involved killing myself.
本当かしら。なんだかんだであなたは見捨てられないタイプに見えるけど。
I wonder, you don't seem the type who can just abandon everything.
く
とにかくたまたまあなたが夢使いで、たまたま彼と現地で再会したからうまく事件解決ができたってわけね。
So anyway, because you just happened to be a dream wielder and because you just happened to reunite with him, the incident was brought to a peaceful close. Mitsuji lazily nodded. The concept of the sheep and the cattle was to bring salvation through dreams. The concept itself wasn't all that new. If they could show all of mankind a blissful dream, they could attain salvation in their minds. Mankind's interests contained complicated self-contradictions. Achieving universal bliss by optimizing everyone's interests was difficult. So there was two easy methods conceived. Either alter people's values and standardize them, or separate them and satisfy them individually. The former was a common idea that had been attempted to be achieved throughout human history via religion, culture, and morals. The latter was an idea that had shown up in sci-fi and such over the past few decades as the development of computer networks progressed. Mitsuji's power was the epitome of the latter. If they could show... The word epitome... One second. Epitome? For the longest of time as a kid, I would come across the word epitome and I would say epitome. I corrected myself, like self-corrected myself like way later in life than I should have probably. For some reason, I don't know how late, but it was a long time. Gotta be late teens when I stopped saying epitome. It's like, what is epitome? Alright, sorry, I just reminded of that. I wasn't coming across that word. If they could show every human in the world their own blissful dream, all of mankind would attain bliss. Basically, she could use a power that showed others in a very wide range a specific dream. She could make dreams of all types and could read others' thoughts and memories through the dream, albeit in an incomplete fashion. That skill and subtlety was her true strength. However, there's another method of using dreams. When dreaming, a dreamer is under the illusion that everything happening is real. No matter how crazy things got inside, it was possible not to realize it was a dream, and as long as they didn't, the dream was endlessly real to its observer. However, there was also jinx users who could do unrealistic things that could make the observer want to believe it was a dream. Thus, it was possible to alter reality through dreams. All this dream talking. The observer could take the reality they didn't want to believe and swap it for one they did. Dream writing, a reality alteration and restoration phenomenon that used denial of supernatural phenomena. It was different from standard reality alteration in that the dream wielder could prepare any reality they desired by merely attaining approval. For example, the reason Mitsuji had been able to prepare the convenience store and all the items Haruaki had requested was because those were small-scale reality alterations via dreams. She had told the church that her jinx was nothing more than that, an ability that let her create a base and supplies. It was a handy power to possess, but it did have its limits. She couldn't produce unlimited food or ration off forever, and though she could produce lifeboats, it would be difficult to produce a nuclear weapon. Basically, she couldn't attain agreement between the customer and herself to produce anything that definitely couldn't exist in the storage room. Because of this, reality alteration on a small scale was far from perfect, and all sorts of roadblocks had come up regarding implementation, to say nothing of long-range reality alteration. Creating a single dream that everyone affected could agree upon was next to impossible. In the end, it was a case filled with many self-contradictions to the point of nigh impossible as a way to make everyone happy. Therefore, to jinx users, long-range reality alteration was considered to be, ironically enough, unrealistic, or so it should have been. But this time was different.
植松里香子は夢による現実改変に特化したジンクス使いだった。
Rikako Uematsu was a jinx user who specialized in altering reality via dreams.
例えばあいつの心霊治療も、要は夢の中の理想的な自分に現実を近づける能力。
For example, her spiritual healing was essentially the power to bring her real self closer to her idealized self in the dream.
それを取り出すために、雲だなんだって回りくどいイメージを使ってるのは、俺から見れば無駄が多いが。
If you ask me, using the roundabout image of spider or something to bring that out was wasteful.
しかし、奴の真に恐れるべき能力が、その無駄を難なく解消しちまう。
but her true fearsome power was to erase that wastefulness without hardship.
真に恐れるべき能力？
True fearsome power?
ああ、あの雲の驚異的な知覚能力、演算能力だよ。
Yeah, the spider's astonishing perception and calculation.
1000年単位で無数の先祖の怨念を織り込むという理由付けを与え続けた DD。あれはいわば超強力な精神体コンピュータだ。
A DD given constant justification by folding in 1,000 years worth of countless ancestors' grudges. It's basically a powerful neurological computer.
従来の雲の担い手の夢操作能力を連結して並列で走らせてるようなもんで、その情報処理能力は想像を絶する。
By running the dream manipulation power in parallel to it, data processing ability of the former bearer of the spiders would be beyond imagination.
もちろん、それでも理想の夢を純粋な計算でひねり出すのは難しい。だから奴は別の方法を考えた。
Of course, still difficult to devise an ideal dream through pure calculations, so she came up with a different method.
それが巻き戻りだったの？
You mean the loop?
ああ、そうだ。
Yeah.
一定の領域、一定の観測者たちのある瞬間の状況を完全に記録する。まるで現実を切り取ったように。
By completely recording the state of a fixed area and fixed observers at a certain moment in time, like tearing it out of reality.
カメラみたいに？
Or like a camera?
ああ。しかし映像だけじゃない。その世界の、その瞬間に起きたことすべてを記録するような、途方もない荒技だ。
Yes, but it's not just images. It's an extraordinary power that records everything happening in that world at that moment.
それが、あの雲にはできた。それでもって、極めて精巧な過去の夢を作り出すこともな。
The spider could pull that off and create extremely detailed dreams of the past.
自分が体験してきた過去ならば、どんな人間でも同意できる。つまり、今日一日頑張ったのは夢だったんだって具合に。
So long as it's a past they've experienced, anyone can accept it. In other words, a state where everything you worked hard on all day was just a dream.
漫画とかでいう夢落ちを強制的に発生させる。
So it forcibly creates a dream world like one straight out of a manga?
ああ、そういうもんだと思えばいい。ただしそれだってとんでもない話なんだ。今言った通りにな。
Yeah, you can think of it like that. But like I said, even that's one hell of a story.
それは理解できたわ。つまり、
I can understand. So basically,
彼女をもってしても、土雲の復活に足りるだけの糧。ややこだっけ？
even with that power, she couldn't create a dream.
あれを都合よく全部回収したぞってな夢を作ることはできなかった。
Where she could conveniently gather all the nourishment, children, as she'd put it, needed to revive the Tsujigomo.
だから、あの集落でたまたま文化的に継続していた殺人慣習を利用して、自分以外の住人の全滅を狙った。
Therefore, she made use of the murder ritual the village's culture just so happened to have, named for the deaths of everyone but herself.
でも、彼女はそのために世界すべてを巻き戻してたわけじゃないんでしょ？
But it's not like she made the whole world loop back for that, right?
その通り。もしそうなったら、もっともっと強力なカメラが必要になっただろう。とい
Exactly.
うかまあ、非現実的だな。
Exactly. She would have needed a much larger camera for that, and that would be unrealistic.
そうよね。あなたの理屈だと。
True, that's your theory.
俺や春秋のやつが味わった無数のループは実際は雲の夢の中で発生してたことだ。
The infinite loop Haruaki and I were put through actually occurred in the spider's dream.
いわばシミュレーションだな。最初のセーブポイントから全ての登場人物を自由に歩かせて。
It was basically a simulation. She let all the characters roam freely from the initial save point.
設定した失敗条件が満たされたら夢を最初からやり直す。
And if the initial failure conditions were met, she retried the dream from the start.
そして最終的にいい結果が出た時だけその夢を現実と差し替える。
And only when she eventually got a good result would she switch that dream for reality.
そういうことだ。だから実際俺らがループ地獄を味わってる間、時間は1秒も進んじゃいなかった。
Right. So even when we were going through all the hell of a loop, not a single second passed in reality.
これもまた雲のべらぼうな演算能力によるものだ。本当失敗してよかったと思うぜ。
This is also due to the spider's incredible calculation ability. It really is fortunate that it failed.
まったくね。
Indeed.
もう一つ、植松里香子の賢かった点は、自分の死を改変発動のトリガーにしたところだな。
Another bit of cleverness on Rikaku Uematsu's part was setting her own death as the trigger for setting off the alteration.
自分自身も夢の中に没入しなきゃならない以上、その方法が一番だったのは間違いない。
Since she herself had to be immersed in that dream, there's no question that was the best way to go about it.
ああ、彼女は確か証言してたわね。
Yeah, she testified as much.
土雲の現世の復活には地獄の入り口だというサラナ川や霧のシチュエーションが必須だったって。
She said the entrance to hell known as Saranagawa and the mist were needed to resurrect the Tsuchigomo.
ああ、ジンクス成立の背景となすことのデカさを考えれば、そういう面倒な手続きが必要だったのは不思議じゃねえ。
Yeah, when you consider the circumstances that brought about the jinx and what it wanted to achieve, it's no wonder she needed to go through such a troubling procedure.
しかしそうなると、安全な場所で夢を見守ってるわけにはいかないわけだ。殺人現場近くで常に待機する必要がある。
But it meant she couldn't just watch over the dream from a safe place. She needed to stand on alert in the killing grounds.
失敗しそうな時、能動的にリセットをかける手もあったろうが、もしそれだと不意打ちで死んだ時に対応できねえ。
Seems she could have set active resets she could use whenever it looked like she was going to fail. Ooh, but that would make her unable to counter deadly surprise attacks.
その場合、
Ooh, Woody.
夢の中とはいえ、自分が死んだ夢が現実にフィードバックしないとも限らねえ。この場合はな。
In that case, there would have been an off chance that the dream where she died would feed back into reality.
それに、たとえ現実に戻れたとしても、夢を再開するまでにいくらかは現実の時計の針を進めちまう。
And even if she could return to reality, there was no telling how long she would have to wait in the real world until she could restart the dream.
あいつ、何千だか何万だかループを繰り返してたって話だろ。
Exactly how many times did she loop again?
本人の証言が正しければ17万6201回らしいわよ。
If she's telling us the truth, 176,201 times.
もし現実世界でリセット手続きを踏むのに1秒かかったとしても、17万回も繰り返せばだいたい2日分ずれちまう。
Even if it only took her a second to reset in the real world, repeating that many loops would mean it would have taken place over 2 whole days, more or less.
彼女、儀式発動には丸1日かかったとも証言してたわね。
She testified that it took a whole day to invoke the ritual.
マジか。毎回それだけの時間かけてたら、実時間で400年とか経過するぜ。これはまあ、実現不可能だ。
You kidding me? If it took that long each time, 400 years would have passed in the real world. It's impossible.
だから、半ば独立した存在である夢の土雲が自分の生命停止を感知し次第、自動で巻き戻るようにした。
So the Tsuchigumo of dreams, who existed partially independently, automatically looped once it detected its life had ended.
それで復活に必要な手続きをするために夢を出る必要はなくなり、ほぼ0時間でリセットをかけられるようになった。
Thus, it no longer needed to dream in order to resurrect, and could reset practically instantly.
その上、自分の死という絶対失敗条件が発生した後は、迅速にやり直しが発生する無駄のないスキームが完成した。
On top of that, she completed a wasteless scheme where she could promptly try all over again after the absolute failure condition. Her death was met.
そういうことだ。
Exactly.
賢いわね。
Clever.
いや、確かにその仕掛けはうまくできてたが、奴は賢くないミスを一つしてる。
No, it may have been a clever setup, but she made a foolish mistake.
それは巻き戻りの直後からイレギュラーな動きを始める人間を放置したことだ。
She ignored those who started taking irregular actions right after the looping began.
芹沢千恵美とあなたの元彼のことね。
You mean Chiemi Serizawa and your ex-boyfriend, right?
あんま元彼言うな。それはともかく、その二人は本来ありえない存在なわけだ。
Don't say that too much. Anyway, those two weren't originally supposed to be there.
雲によって記憶を現実改変の外側に置き、保持してる自分以外は記憶を持ち越せるはずがないんだ。
Memories were kept outside of the reality alteration by the spider, and no one except for itself was supposed to retain those memories.
なのに奴はそれを疑問視しなかったばかりか、歓迎さえした。この二人が望む結末を持ってきてくれると。
Yet not only did it not view them with suspicion, but it also invited them, so they could bring about the desired result.
そいつは夢使いの戦い方じゃねえ。夢使いは夢を完全に掌握してこそ優位に立てるんだ。魔王の役回りさ。
That's not the way a dream wielder fights. A dream wielder dominates precisely because they have complete control over the dream. It's the role of a demon lord.
あいつは春明と千恵美をとっとと夢から追い出すか、毎回振り出しの時点でぶっ殺すべきだったんだ。
The spider should have driven Haruaki and Chiemi out of the dream or killed them at the starting point each time.
その上であくまで自力で努力して最良の結果を導き出すべきだった。
Should have also striven to bring about the best result through its own efforts.
それをせず、あいつは白馬の王子様を願っちまった。登場人物を入れ替えるだけのために振り出しもいろいろいじった。
But instead, she wished for a knight in shining armor. She messed with the starting point just to change the characters in the story.
結局、それで春明のやつを呼び込んだんだから世話はねえ。その甘さがなきゃ俺たちが負けてただろうよ。
As a result, Haruaki was drawn in, and it all went to waste. If it weren't for that foolishness, we probably would have lost.
あなたがそこまで言うならよほどだったのね。
Must have been a big deal if you're saying all that.
分かってんのかよ。救いの巻き場なんかと年季が違う2000年越しの復讐譚だぜ。
Do you get it? This was a vengeful creature over 2,000 years old. It's on a different league from us fledglings from a salvation pasture.
しかもなんだかんだでジンクスの系統だった知識もねえくせにあそこまで使える能力に育てた血統の所業だ。
And even though it didn't know a thing about jinxes, it came from a bloodline that refined its ability to monstrous efficiency.
ここまでのやつはそうそういねえだろうけどよ。にしても冗談じゃねえって言うんだよ。
I'm sure that jinxes on this level are rare, but still, saying this one was no joke.
この国には今後どんだけこんなバカみてえな事件が起きるんだ？
How many incidents as big as this are going to happen in this country in the future?
まあ、私自身はそういうのは3回くらいかな。
Well, I've dealt with about 3 of them myself.
不幸な人はいるし、そのうちの何割かは危険な力を持って社会に復讐しようとするわけよ。珍しいことじゃないわ。
There are unfortunates with dangerous powers who try to use them to get revenge on society. It's not uncommon.
教会で働いてると、そういうのからは逃げられないからね。あなたにも今後、せいぜい助けてもらおうと思うわ。
You can't avoid those when you work for the church. Thinking of having you help me out with those.
無理無理。俺はせいぜい運び屋と後方支援に徹させてもらうぜ。
Nope, not happening. I'll be devoting myself to courier jobs and logistical support. Thank you.
ま、表向きはそうした方がいいわね。ただ、あなたのポテンシャルを私は正確に知っておきたい。
officially, that'll indeed look good for you. But I want a full picture of your potential.
あなた、解決の直前に相当危ない瞬間があったみたいなこと言ってたわよね。何があったの？教えて。
You mentioned that there was a relatively dangerous moment right before the incident was resolved. Tell me what happened. Mitsuji hesitated. It'd be like revealing an ace up her sleeve. Could she really trust this woman?
疑ってるって顔ね。いいわ。もし話してくれるなら、私も自分の能力をあなたに詳しく明かすから。
Looks like you don't trust me. Very well. If you do tell me, then I'll reveal my own ability to you.
そりゃいいな。俺もあんたみたくいくつだかわかんねえ美人になれるか？
That'd be nice. Is it the secret to looking as young as you do at whatever age you are? I'd like that.
失礼な子ね。まあ、化粧のテクは応用が効くから、別途教えてもいいけど。あなた、素材は可愛いし。
So rude. Well, if you want to know my makeup techniques, I can tell separately, but you're already naturally cute. Normally, Mitsuji had no interest in her femininity. If pressed, she'd say she wished she'd been born a guy, and her sexual orientation leaned that way to some degree. It was for that reason that her Jinx avatar, the sheep, sounded like a guy. Oh, I'm so glad that the game explained that for me.
まあいいや。
What a detail to learn
あん
at
た
the
には
final
話しと
stream.
く。最悪。死ぬまで悪夢の刑にしてやるし。
Fine, I'll tell you. Worst case, I'll punish you with a nightmare until you die. It's like a nice little treat here at the final Raging Loop stream to learn a nugget such as that.
そりゃ、ご勘弁
Makes it all
願い
worth
たい
it,
わ
you know?
ね。せいぜい漏らさないように注意する。
Oh my, I'd appreciate it if you didn't. I'll be careful not to let anyone know. Anyone else know? It was at this point Mitsuji successfully set a secret trap to seal her superior in a dream if she went against her word. What was so terrifying about the sheep was it could do... What was so terrifying about the sheep was it could do that? What was so terrifying about the sheep was it could... I think we're missing a word there. It's fine.
俺が危ない橋を渡ったのは2度だ。最初はあのバカがドジ踏んだ時。2度目はあのバカがわざとドジ踏んだ時。
I treaded on thin ice twice. The first was when that idiot screwed up. The second was when that idiot intentionally screwed up.
ふむふむ。
I see.
まあ、簡単に言えば、復活した雲の頭の中に無理やり入り込んで、振り出しの写真を盗み見たのさ。
Well, put simply, I forced myself into the resurrected spider's head, stole a glance at a snapshot of the starting point.
植松からすりゃ、目的は遂げたわけだから、もうリセットボタンを押す必要はない。
Uematsu had already fulfilled her goal, so she didn't need to press the reset button again.
だから、その時に限っちゃ、現実改変は俺の自前でやったんだ。
It was only at those times I did reality alteration.
雲の記憶したその瞬間をあなたが夢として練り上げ、それを現実と差し替えたのね。
You refined that moment in the spider's memory into memory and swapped it with the reality, huh?
そうさ。正確には、雲とあのバカの記憶両方元にしたけどな。あいつには確実に記憶を持たせなきゃならなかったから。
Yeah. More accurately, I returned both the spider and that idiot's memories to the start, because he needed those memories. To make him agree easily without having him notice the unnatural moment of the swap, she had literally killed Haruaki. Not that she needed to say that, nor did she feel bad about it.
聞く限りでは相当の大技のようだけど、よく植松里香子に気づかれなかったわね。
It was a bold move for sure, but I'm surprised Rikaku Uematsu didn't notice.
まあ夢使いはある意味始終妄想してるようなもんだからな。多少の既視感は見過ごすかもと期待はしたさ。
Well, a dream wielder is, in a manner of speaking, in a constant state of delusion. I figured she let a little deja vu slide.
あいつにとっちゃ念願が叶って土雲が復活したと思ったら夢だったなんてありそうな話だろ。
I thought she'd chalk off that scene of her finally achieving her I thought she'd chalk off that scene of her finally achieving her desire to resurrect the Tsuchigumo as just a dream.
それで一旦は納得したと。
And for a while she did.
だが最後のはかなり無理をした。雲が忘れかけてた最初の方の記憶を俺と春秋の記憶と混ぜて再利用した。
But the last time pushed it too far. The memory the spider had almost forgotten of its first success mixed in with me and Haruaki's memories and was recycled.
結果的に実時間より遡った夢を作り出す羽目になった。雲から見ればバレバレの異常事態だ。
As a result, I ended up creating a dream that went back further in real time. Spider could clearly notice the abnormality of that.
気づかれたと。
So she caught on, you mean?
ああ、まさか自分と似たような能力者がすぐそばで暗躍してるなんざ思わなかっただろうが、一度気づけばすぐさ。
Yeah, she probably had no idea that someone with a similar power was operating in secret so close to her, but once she realized it, it all clicked.
なんせ相手は軍事衛星も真っ青の超感覚と超頭脳だ。いくら俺が羊だっつっても生身の単身でどうこうなるわけでもねえ。
After all, my opponent had super senses and super intelligence that'd bring military satellites to shame. I may be the sheep, but there's only so much I can do on my own.
それでも2日間くらいは耐えた。その後はアバターをやられてノックダウンさ。
Still, I endured for 2 days. After that, my avatar was defeated and I was down for the count.
それだけど、あなたは能力行使に際してアバターを必要とするのよね。他の家畜もそうなの？
About that, you need to use your avatar whenever you use your powers, right? Are the rest of the cattle the same?
ああ、そういうやつは多い。何しろ牧場と家畜ってコンセプトで動機づけをガキの頃からするんだ。
Yeah, there are tons like that. After all, they motivated us with the concepts of the pasture and cattle ever since we were kids.
モデルの動物のイメージは鮮明で自分のイメージと強烈に結びついてる方がいい。自然、形になるさ。
Images of model animals are clear, and it's best to link them deeply with your own imagination. That way, naturally take shape.
となると S 型または G 型。獣のモデルにするならまあ妥当かしら。
Which makes them sloth and gluttony types. Suppose it's appropriate to use animal models.
学会員みてえなこと言うんだな、あんた。
Sounds like the sort of thing the academia would say.
これでもディアグノーザーの学会資格は持ってるから私。
Well, my lips stuck together. Well, I am an academia qualified diagnoser, despite my position.
しかしアバターをやられてよく無事だったわね。それ以来能力に支障が残ったりしなかった？
Still, surprised you made it out okay after the defeat of your avatar. Were there any further complications with your power after that?
俺らのアバターなりメタモルフォシスなりはそういう能力損傷の危険を経ても魔性の核が傷つかないように作られてる。
The core of the diabolicities of our avatars or metamorphs are designed to not get damaged by these power-based hazards.
なるほど。トカゲの尻尾か。本体の生存を最優先とし、脱出と再決起の瞬間を待つ。
I see. So it's like a lizard's tail. Life of the main body is prioritized and you wait for the moment to escape and get back up on your feet again.
マジで世界を救う戦争なんて起こそうとしてたの？
Were they seriously trying to cause a war to save the world?
牧場主が何考えてたのかなんて知らねえよ。あんたらか誰かがもうぶっ殺しちまったんだから。
I've got no clue what the pasture was thinking. After all, you guys or someone else already killed them.
ただ末端の家畜やその候補たちはそう信じてたさ。自分たちが世界を救う、救いの牧場を世界に広げるってな。
However, terminal cattle and their candidates believed it, that they would save the world, that the salvation pasture would spread across the world.
ふむ。そっちの話も興味深いけど、まずは報告をどうするかね。
It's a very interesting topic, but let's take care of the report first.
そうだな。
Yeah, good idea.
ふむ。わかった。こうしましょう。あなたは何もしなかった。
Okay, let's go with this. You did nothing.
は
Huh?
状況的に植松里香子の中にも矛盾した気持ちがあったのは間違いない。だからそれが形をとって現れた。
Situationally, there is no doubt that Rikako and Matsu had conflicting emotions. That's why they took on form and appeared.
その植松里香子の前世みたいなものが久石春明や芹沢千恵美を導いて最終的に土雲を敗北させた。
Then, Rikako and Matsu's innate goodness or something guided Haruaki Fusaishi and Chiemi Serizawa, and eventually resulted in the Tsuchigumo's defeat.
その場合、俺の扱いってどうなるんだよ。
Then, what will it say about me?
基本すべてのループをコンビニ店員としてぼーっと過ごしたって感じかしら。
Let's just say you basically spent all the loops sitting around as a convenience store employee.
ひどすぎんだろ。言えないにしても多少活躍したことにしてくれよ。
That's too cruel. I know we can't tell the truth, but at least give me a major role.
あらら要注意。人間が失敗する原因のベスト3に入るのが功名心よ。目立たないでいいのは幸運と思わなきゃ。
Now, just so you know, ambition is one of the top 3 causes of failure. Consider it fortunate you don't stand out.
わかったよ。
Alright.
にしても、あの二人もちょっと注意すべきね。
Still, those two should be careful.
まあ、そうかもな。
Yeah, I guess. Honestly, in all honesty, Mitsuji still had feelings for Haruaki. Her relationship with him had awakened, allowed her to exhibit a femininity she never knew she had. It annoyed and embarrassed her whenever she thought about it, and she never wanted to be in a situation like that again. But when she was with Haruaki, he'd allowed her to be all that. She dated him with feelings so fresh she'd felt like a completely different person. She couldn't deny that for her, who had been living a double life as a spy for the project at the time. The relationship had been very relaxing. Nor could she deny that the 2 years she'd spent talking to him were now part of her life. However, she also knew she wasn't the type to stay tied down. If they'd kept dating, Haruaki would have likely realized the truth about her and proceeded to interrogate her non-stop, for that was his nature. He would have certainly been led to the project and the jinxes as a result, and then he would have ruined himself, no doubt about it. His disposition was simply that twisted and antagonistic. Whenever he did an activity he considered scary or interesting, he would always give the person he was facing off against a bad time. It was a nasty, cursed fate, like that of a protagonist of a story. If she was just an ordinary woman, that would have been fine. Revealing the secrets of neighbors and internal company affairs didn't always lead to life-threatening danger. But in the extraordinary life that Mitsuji lived, he would have been erased before long by someone who with conflicting interests. And loath as she was to admit it, she didn't want that. Well, biggest reason she broke up with him was because the war between her desire to kill him and her desire to bask more in the relationship had finally come to a close. The black seed sesame pudding had been the trigger for that, and in the end she couldn't reach a compromise with the part of her who'd curl up in his arms and cry.
が、もう手遅れかもしれねえな。
It might be too late for that though.
彼はもう手遅れかもしれないわね。
It might be too late for him though. It might, yeah, okay. Mitsuji was stunned, feeling like her mind had been read. The mug her superior handed over was full of tepid coffee.
何がだよ。
What are you talking about? Mitsuji had long since stopped acting polite for formality's sake around her superior, but she felt this was an appropriate sense of distance.
彼、超常現象に深入りしすぎたでしょ。あなたの正体も半ば知ったわけだし、契約は成立したと思うべきでしょう。
He's gotten in too deep with supernatural phenomenon, and he has an inkling of the truth about you. We should assume he's formed a contract.
今後彼はジンクス使いとして目覚めるかもしれない。
In the future, he may awaken as a Jinx user.
もう目覚めてるかもしれねえぞ。
Or maybe he's already awakened.
え？
Huh?
あるだろ。アーキタイプの中に探偵ってやつが。
There's an archetype known as the detective, right?
あれは超強力な無実化特化能力者か、あるいは ジンクス無効化の現実改変者を示すアーキタイプよ。
That refers to dream writing specialization users or jinx nullifying reality warpers.
ああ、知ってるさ。ジンクス的事件をとんでもないへりくつを通すことで現実の事件だったことにしちまう人種。
Yeah, I know. They're kind of people who turn jinx incidents into real incidents through extreme solipsism.
今回は大体そういうことになったわけだろ。
That's basically what happened with this one, wasn't it?
まあ表向きはね。でもあなたがこう証言しているんだから。
Officially, at least. But your testimony says otherwise.
でも諸事情あって記録には残らないわけだろ。
But due to various reasons, there'll be no records of it, right?
ありえなくもないかもね。ちょっと注目した方がいいのかも。
It might be possible. You should probably be careful.
ただ私はむしろ芹沢千恵美の方が危ない気がする。あの子の神を殺す力、どう思う？
But I feel like Chiemi Serizawa is the dangerous one. What do you think of her god-slaying power?
神が何かによるんじゃね？
Doesn't that depend on her definition of a god?
そりゃそうだけど、ジンクス的に言えば悪魔的な存在を無条件で知覚して殺せるとかなったらかなりヤバい。
I suppose, but in Jinx terms, if she could perceive and kill a demon-like entity, that'll be very dangerous.
悪魔ね。あいつの言ってた神ってそういう存在でもなさそうだけど。
A demon, huh? I don't think the god she spoke of was that sort of entity. From a Jinx standpoint, humans who've traveled too far down the path of deviancy were called demons. It was a hypothetical concept of a person who'd lost practically all ability to form relationships with humans to the point where they couldn't even perceive them anymore. However, there were plenty of deviants who alluded to the existence of demons, so they probably existed. It was just hard to prove. On the other hand, the god Haruaki had explained afterwards over the phone seemed to be a type of concept completely different from Jinx's. It was more like an alien or a real ghost.
そっちは録音テープ聞いたからだいたい理解はしてるつもりだけど、まあ確かにね。
I've heard the recording, so I'd like to believe I understand it for the most part, but I suppose you're right.
人間に知覚されることで活性化、電波、変異する知的存在。どっちかっていうと SF の世界の話みたい。
N mind-based entity that activates, multiplies, and mutates by being perceived by humans. Sounds like something out of a sci-fi story.
春秋の定義だと植松の土雲も神の一種になるみてえだけど、そっちは知恵みには気づけなかったんだろ。
According to Haruaki's definition, Uematsu Tsuchigumo was also apparently a type of god, but Chiemi never noticed it, right?
土雲はジンクス的には DD で説明がつくんだ。別物だと考えた方がしっくりくるけどな。
In Jinx terms, the Tsuchigumo could be explained with DD. It'd be better to consider it something else entirely, though.
それは植松里香子が神内明神の信仰で隠蔽してたとも考えられるけど、悪魔と神は別物の線が濃厚か。
It's likely that Rikako Uematsu was hiding it behind her Shinai faith, but the idea that the demons and gods are different things is highly possible.
でももしそんな神が実在したとして、これまで世界のどこからも似たような分析が出てこなかったのはなぜかしら。
But if gods like that exist, then why have we not seen anything similar to them in the world?
富士吉村は特殊な環境だったけど、あそこにだけ神がいたっていうのも不自然な話に思えるわ。
Fujiyoshi may be a peculiar environment, but it just seems unnatural that they'd be the only one with gods.
あんた、こんな話聞いたことあるか？
Hey, you ever hear this story?
何何？エッチな話？
Oh, is it a perverted story?
すげえ、いきなり何言い出してんだ。そんなキャラじゃねえだろ、あんたはよ。
No, of course not. That's not the kind of person you are, right?
いやー、私くらい逸脱しちゃうと、たまに意識してキャラ崩さないと、行動パターンが確一化されてやばいのよ。
Well, when you're as much of a deviant as me, you need to consciously act out of consciously act out of character every now and then. Otherwise, your behavior will behavioral patterns are in danger of standardizing.
とにかく話ってのは、
Okay.
あれだ。世界に法則を刻んだ人間の話。
Anyway, the story is about the people who carved laws into this world.
何それ、牧場限定の話？
What's that? Is it a pasture exclusive?
まあ、そうかもしれねえな。ジンクス絡みの話じゃあるから。
It might be, I guess. It is a Jinx-related story after all.
人間は逸脱しすぎると悪魔になる。悪魔は契約者以外には見ることさえできない存在だ。
Humans become demons when they deviate too far. Those demons can only be seen by their contractors.
しかし、悪魔と契約してるとか嘘吹く連中は大概、ジンクス的にはとんでもない力を持っている。
But those who boast about forming contracts with demons possess incredible Jinx powers.
そういう話もあるわね。
I've heard the stories.
おかしくねえか？ジンクス的には現象発生のために相互理解と契約が必須になるはずだ。
Isn't it strange? You should need mutual understanding in a contract in order to use your Jinx powers.
知覚できないパワーソースがそんなとんでもない力を与えたら、理屈の前提がひっくり返らねえか？
If you could get that kind of power from an invisible source, wouldn't that completely turn that assumption on its head?
一応ジンクス理論はあくまで他の理論と同様仮説に過ぎないわ。
Just to reiterate, the Jinx theory is nothing more than a hypothesis, like all the other theories.
そもそもジンクス的能力のすべてが単一の理論で定義できるかも相当怪しい状況なんだから、それは。
In the first place, the idea that a single theory can define all Jinx powers is fairly fishy.
この話では逆のことが言われる。悪魔は世界と断絶してるんじゃない。むしろ世界と同化しかけてるんだと。
This story tells the opposite. It says that demons don't break off from the world. They almost assimilate with it instead.
ジンクスは常識を歪める能力だ。それゆえに強靭に結びつけられていて、普通の社会では最初から締め出されてる。
Jinxes are the power to warp common sense. That's why they're linked to madmen and why they're barred from normal society from the start.
しかし、強靭じゃない。見えもしない存在が能力を行使すれば、それは嘘やインチキだとは、かえって認識されにくい。
But if an invisible entity, not some lunatic, used the power, it'd be really hard to recognize as a lie or a trick.
悪魔はすでに世界に受け入れられかかっていて、そのせいで逆に見えづらくなっている。
Demons are already being accepted by the world, which makes them harder to see as a result.
この考え方でいけば、極まった悪魔はどうなるかっていうと、
If we go with this line of thinking, then what happens to a demon that's reached the extreme?
世界に法則を刻むってもしかして。
By carves laws into the world, do you mean?
ああ、そうさ。ジンクスが世界の法則に組み込まれるんだ。そして誰もそれをおかしいと思わなくなる。
Yup, a Jinx is incorporated into the laws of the world, and no one finds it strange anymore.
ちなみに俺は、そうなった悪魔は法になると教わった。
Incidentally, I was taught that such a demon becomes a law.
例えば、ニュートンという男が法と化したから、この世界はニュートン力学に支配されたとか。
For example, when the man called Newton became a law, this world became ruled by Newtonian physics. Stories like that.
おお、大胆すぎる説ね。過分にして聞いたことがなかったわ。
Wow, it's quite a daring theory. Can't say I've ever heard it before.
それだと太古の自然科学者や思想家が何らかの法をもたらしたから現在の世界の秩序があるってことかしら。
Perhaps the reason the modern world has systems is because ancient natural scientists and thinkers brought about their own laws.
その通りだ。それどころか、アダムという存在が法と化して有性生殖が生まれたかもしれねえな。
Exactly. And that's not all. Perhaps the being known as Adam became along and gave birth to Zugami.
まさに魔法みたいな話ね。
Sounds just like magic.
ああ、だからこそ自分たちにはこの世界に幸福という法をもたらす必要がある。
Yeah, that's why we need to bring about the law known as joy to this world.
なるほど。テロリストに与えるにはもってこいの壮大で理想じみてて一発逆転主義な筋書きだわ。
I see. How magnificent, idealistic and extreme. Perfect for terrorists.
で、それが今までの話と何の関係があるっていうの？
So what does that have to do with what we were talking about?
ああ、状況はもちろん違うんだがよ。ただ、ちょっと嫌な想像をしちまったんだ。
Right. Situation's different, of course. I just don't have a good feeling about this.
ちえみが漠然と知覚してた神について、春明のバカが今回、明確な定義づけを行っちまったわけだろ？
Because that idiot Haruaki gave the god Yemi had vaguely perceived a clear definition this time.
待って、嫌な予感が私もしてきた。
Wait, now I'm getting a bad feeling too.
もし世界の法則が悪魔にしろ何にしろ後付けで変わっちまうようなものなら
If the laws of the world can be changed after the fact, whether by a demon or something else.
春明の神の定義がまかり間違って採用されちまって今後神ってのがそういう形でボコボコ現れるかも
Then maybe Haruaki's definition of God will take a turn for the worse. And we'll start seeing those sorts of gods pop up everywhere.
いやいやいや、さすがに飛躍しすぎだから。
No, you're making way too much of a leap there.
確かに春明は探偵とはちょっと違うかもしれねえ。不可思議の存在を否定してねえからな。
True, Haruaki might be a little different from a detective. He doesn't deny the existence of the unfathomable after all.
むしろ不可思議に対して現実世界と親和性のある説明をひねり出すことで現実化させちまう能力だとしたら
Rather, he has the power to make the unfathomable real by coming up with explanations for them that are compatible with the real world.
笑えない。
That's not funny.
だろ
Sure as hell ain't.
ただどうだろうなそっちはそっちで大変だろうとは思うが俺らの世界とはあんまり交差しねえかもしれねえ
Still, I wonder. It's still a bother in its own right, but maybe it won't even intersect all too much with our world.
そうかしら。ジンクス使いはね、無意味なすれ違いをあまりしないものよ。
Perhaps Jinx users don't usually cross paths for a reason.
だから必ず再会するって
Which is why you think we'll definitely see each other again?
そうよ。だって私たちは強くなるために自分で世界を狭くすることしかできないもの。
That's right. After all, the only way we can get stronger is to make the world smaller.
現にあなたは破局した後、何の打ち合わせもしないまま、ここで彼と再会し、それが事件解決につながっている。
You, in fact, found yourself unexpectedly meeting your ex again after you broke up, and you became the key to resolving the incident. Mitsuji didn't object. She herself had found out natural, it could only be explained by Jinx-like interpretation of the relationship.
この先きっと、ことさら困難なタイミングで彼らと再会するのよ。助けになるか、さらにややこしくなるかはわからないけど。
I'm sure you'll meet them again at a particularly troubling time in the future, though I don't know if they'll help or just make things more complicated.
やめてくれよこんな仮説立てるんじゃなかったな
Stop it. That kind of hypothesis holds no water.
そんなことはないわ。少なくとも私はあらゆる悪い想像をしておかなきゃならない立場にあるし。
That's not true. At the very least, you're in a position where you have to imagine all kinds of evils.
超科学理論を現実化するジンクスか。もしそんなアーキタイプがあるとすれば、どう名付けるべきかしら。
A jinx that turns parascientific theories into reality, huh? What would we even call an archetype like that?
魔法使い
A magician.
言えて妙ね。
What a fitting name. Tired of talking, the pair both brought the cold coffee to their lips at the exact same time, like mirror images. It was instant. She also put sugar in without asking. Not that Mitsuji was complaining.
とりあえず今聞きたいのはこんなところかしら。あとはそっちでもまとめられるわよね。
Anyway, that's more or less what I wanted to ask you. You can sum up the rest, can't you?
ああ。ただ。
Yeah. However.
何？
What?
植松里香子が土壇場で一切のジンクスを奪われたのは、ありゃどう説明つければいいんだ。
How do we explain how Rikaku Uematsu lost her entire jinx at the 11th hour?
ジンクスの喪失はありえない現象じゃないが、そのタイミングで停電を伴って起きたってのはどう考えても作為的だ。
It's not impossible to lose a jinx, but at the timing when the lights went out, it's contrived, plain and simple.
あの場に誰かが介入したとしか思えない。
All I can come up with is that someone intervened.
知ってるでしょ？藤吉村の他の住人は白だったってバスガイドに偽装したうちの子が言ってた。
You should know that the other residents of Fujiyoshi were cleared. Our agent disguised as a bus guide told us as much.
一応逸脱者はいたんだろ？
Well, there were some deviants, right?
そうね。牧島春に鴨志田近持両名ともあの現場にもいたし、神に関する貴重なサンプルなのは疑いないわ。
True. Haru Makishima and Chikamochi Kamoshida were both on the scene, and there's no doubt their vital samples related to God.
得体の知れない強力なジンクスらしいし、その神が働きかけて雲を消滅させたってのがいい線じゃない？
Didn't that god, apparently a mysterious and powerful jinx, exert its influence annihilating the spider?
まあ、それくらいしか考えられねえだろうな。
Well, that's the only conclusion I can come to.
ちなみにその二人、教会はどうするつもりなんだ？
By the way, what's the church planning to do with them?
別に普通の注意すべき一般人と同じ扱いよ。人を差し向けて遠巻きに監視することになるんじゃないかな。
Nothing much. We'll keep an eye on them, but they'll be treated like normal people otherwise. Suppose they'll send people to observe them from afar.
そんな一筋縄で行きゃいいがな。あの神ってやつが。
Wonder if those sorts of standard methods will work on that so-called god.
ずいぶん神を危険視してるのね。
You're being quite cautious of God, aren't you?
一応、俺たちには信仰があるもんでな。神と名の付く者には敬意と警戒を払いたくなるんだ。
Well, we did have a faith, you know. We want to show those labeled gods respect and caution. At the very least, the Salvation Pasture Project had incorporated concepts and values from Abrahamic religions. There was also the reason why the cattle were born on December 25th, on paper anyway, to symbolize that they were all messiahs in the making.
半神論的な神はいわゆるヤハウェやアッラーのような唯一神とは本質的に異なる概念とも聞くわよ。
I've heard that pantheist gods and so-called monotheist gods like Yahweh and Allah are essentially different concepts.
そんなのはいいんだ。俺たちにとっちゃ、誰がこの世界を作って試練を与えて滅ぼす権限を持ってるのかが重要だ。
That doesn't matter. What's important for us is to know who it is that created the world, provides tribulations, and holds the right to destroy.
あんた、計画がどうして立てられたか知ってるか？
Do you know why it was that the project was formed?
終末論的テロリズムによって自分たちの理想郷を作るためと理解しているけど。
As I understand it, to create their own utopia through eschatological terrorism.
完全には否定はしねえ。
I can't completely deny that.
ただ一方で、牧場主の
How
や
dare
つ
this
は
game
多
throw
分
big
本
words
気
at me
で
that I can't
週
pronounce.
末が来るこ
The
とを確
audacity.
信していた。
Final parting shot of this game. But on the other hand, the ranchers in charge of the pasture probably seriously believed the end was near.
だから本気で救世を？
So they were serious in their mission for salvation?
ああ。どんな形の週末が来るのかはわからなかったから、こうして山ほど家畜を養殖したわけだ。
Yeah, they didn't know how the end would come, so they cultivated many cattle.
言っとくけど、そういう妄想で事件を起こすやつは ジンクス社会の外にも中にも山ほどいるからね。
Just so you know, there are many people who cause incidents due to delusions like that, both in and out of Jinx society.
知ってるよ。まあ、俺たちがその例に漏れないただのバカどもだったってことなら、それに越したことはない。
I know. Well, wouldn't hurt if there were idiots who couldn't escape those cases.
あとはあんたら教会やらが世界を守ってくれればいいさ。それが、牧場を襲った狼の責務だ。
Also, you church guys or whatever should just protect the world. That's the duty of the wolf who attacked the pasture.
狼ね。
The wolf, huh? Feeling her compassion's eyes boring right into her, Mitsuji sipped her coffee, leaned back in her office chair, and looked up at the ceiling. At the Salvation Pasture Project, Wolf was a code that referred to two things. The first referred to a case where either the project was exposed or an investigation or attack that could have a great impact on the progression of the project came from the authorities or the academia. When they said the wolf is coming, the cattle and those associated with the project were to quickly escape and go into hiding, or so they were supposed to. But in the end, that had backfired due to sleeper agents and defectors, and the project was totally destroyed. The DD, designed Diabolicity production project, a complete first in history, may have created many with unprecedented powers, but was lacking in intelligence. The other was a mere legend whispered only amongst the cattle, of a cattle who specialized in killing cattle. That, or it was a plan to deal with cattle capable of destroying the world who had already been released into it. Whatever the case, it was a world that symbolized fear and hostility to the cattle. In other words, Fenrir, the world-killing wolf. However, according to all the Central Intelligence Mitsuji had come into contact with working as intelligence officer for the project, no such thing existed. She would have had no way of finding such information if it only existed in the brains of a select few to the top brass, including the ranchers, but it didn't seem likely to her. That said, an aberrant like Mitsuji didn't think it was impossible for there to be an aberrant Jinx user like that. Aberrant. If there were such a user, she'd probably come across him eventually due to the bond linking Jinx users. And if she did, all she could do was fight to the best of her ability. When she thought that, an idea suddenly came to Mitsuji. It was a trifling idea. No, a memory.
なあ、事件当時の藤吉村の住人、および救出時にいた人間のリスト持ってるか?
Hey, do you have the list of those who live in Fujiyoshi and those who were there at the time of the extrication?
そりゃ。っていうか、報告書にまとめるようで、まとめてメールしたじゃない。
Huh? Well, wait, didn't I email that to you along with all the other materials for you to use for that report? Email, e-mail.
そうだっけか。あ、本当だ。
Oh, you did. Hey, you're right.
いきなりどうしたの?
What's gotten into you? The recollection immediately began an unpleasant conviction.
足りない。
Someone's missing.
え?
Huh?
藤吉村の現住人が11人。うち老人1名が死亡。外部からの取材者2名。ここに犠牲者である千恵美が加わって14人。
Fujiyoshi currently has 11 residents. There's an old man there who died. 2 journalists came from the outside. At Chiemi, who is visiting back from the city, and that's 14 people.
さらに春秋のバカを加えたら15人。あいつの話では、読み意味の宴の最大人数は16人だったはず。
Add that idiot Haruaki and you get 15. But according to him, the Feast of the Yomi Purge had 16 people in it at most.
まずい見落としね。リストから欠けてるのは誰?
That's a bad oversight. Who's missing from the list?
わからねえ。だが、俺はアバターを通して見たことがある。
I don't know, but through my avatar.
4歳くらいの女のガキだった。
I saw a 4-year-old girl there.
子供? そんな住人いないわよ。
A child? There are no children that young among the residents.
じゃあ外から入り込んだんだ。
Then she came from the outside.
そんな子供が一人で? 一体どんな事情?
A child that young, by herself. Under what circumstances would she... The woman's words trailed off for the same reason as Mitsuji.
なあ、ジンクス的因縁によって人と人が都合よく出会うことって あんたの実感としてはよくあることか？
Hey, from your experience, does that thing where Jinx users conveniently cross paths due to their shared bond happen frequently?
ええ、ひどくよくあることね。
Yes, quite frequently.
牧場から逃げたうち、4歳くらいのガキはいなかったか？
Was there a 4-year-old girl who escaped from the pasture?
あなたに伝えることには抵抗があるわ。
I'm not sure I should tell you.
俺は逃亡者だ。今さら戻ろうなんて思わねえ。それにリグループは牧羊犬の仕事だ。知ってるだろ？
I'm a fugitive. I have no intention of going back at this point. Besides, you know that regrouping is the sheepdog's job, right? Misuji had already gone over what the project's plan was if the wolf came, to suspend it and flee. In those situations, everyone was supposed to scatter in different random directions. After all, if an escape route plan existed, the fugitives would all be rounded up if that was ever leaked. In preparation for the arrival of the wolf, a Jinx user was designated for the purpose of regathering the cattle. That was the sheepdog. The sheepdog was a cattle kept under a heavy veil of secrecy. Misuji had never met them. But in the end, they've been caught and were now collaborating with the academia, so this meticulous plan had grown moot. Misuji couldn't blame the sheepdog. After all, she had also thought of selling her comrades to keep herself safe. However, even though she was now hiding right under the church's nose to stay hidden, she feared the sheepdog would find her one day. But that was another story.
絶対に言わない約束よ。破ったらあなた、顔がなくなるからね。
Swear you won't tell anyone. Break it and I'll tear your face off.
上等だ。
Very well. It was a contract. Misuji knew the superior was a considerably skilled Jinx user, thus she should assume the restrictions had already come into effect. It was like they had each other at gunpoint. Misuji gulped, smiled, and steeled herself once more.
脱出組の家畜は確認されているだけで34名。そのうち成功例が7名で、あなたもこれに含まれる。
There are 34 confirmed fugitive cattle. 7 of them are successes, and you're one of them.
加えて、学会の襲撃のギリギリ前に若干名の子供が施設から連れ出されていると、わずかな証言から推測されている。
On top of that, we're surmised from the little testimony we've obtained that there were a few children who escaped from the facility just before the academia's attack. The pastor had predicted the attack, which meant that the children they'd put priority on setting free behind closed doors were
理想例の可能性があるガキか。
kids with the potential to be ideals. Amongst all the kids impounded by the project, only those who showed signs of jinxes were called cattle. There were 3 types of cattle: successes, failures, and ideals. Due to the abnormal education the children raised in the Salvation pasture received, there was a high chance of them displaying a DD and obtaining a jinx. But that didn't mean they'd always get the jinx they'd been aiming for. Those who obtained jinxes that followed their concepts, those that possessed the specs and ability to achieve worldwide salvation, were called successes. Those who developed jinxes that either went against their concepts or clearly didn't match up to the level their concepts had been aiming for were called failures. From what Misuji knew, there were about a dozen successes, including herself, while there were supposedly many times more failures. But even the failures had abilities that could prove useful for some project or another, so they were kept in the confines of the pastor's facility. Most of them were ignorant detainees who had supposedly seen the end of the project in the recent attack by the academia. Misuji had heard that after that, they were all executed alongside the children who hadn't shown signs of jinxes. This inhuman and unprecedented measure had become well known in their world and sparked massive debate, but that was besides the point. Though they were called successes, that didn't necessarily mean they were successes for their overall project. For example, the concept of the sheep was to bring salvation through dreams, but it was clear that didn't necessarily mean perfect salvation. It was merely something like euthanasia. Eternally delaying the moment the physical world ended in a subjective world and immersing in a blissful dream that was not true salvation. In fact, all of the current successes could only bring about dystopian salvation such as that. Salvation meant as stopgap measures gathered to prepare for the coming end of the world. The successes were stopgap measures with a high success rate but a low salvation rate. Conversely, the Salvation Pasture Project had also been undertaking the creation of DD even more complicated and delicate yet capable of attaining true salvation. Those were ideals. As they were wrapped up in as much secrecy as a sheepdog, Misuji barely knew a thing about them.
わからないわ。その子たちについては 計画自体のざるっぷりからは考えられないほど情報統制が効いている。
I don't know. The info regarding these children was so well suppressed that it's hard to believe it was part of the same project.
しかしきっと恐ろしく重要な子供たち、他を全て投げ打っても計画のために逃がしたかった子たちでしょうから。
But that means they must have been important. After all, they wanted to let them go for the sake of the project, even if it meant throwing everything else away.
脱出組狩りが一段落したら、牧羊犬はその子たちを探すことになるでしょうね。
Once the hunt for the fugitive passes its first stage, the sheepdog should end up searching for those children.
なるほど。それまで逃げ延びられれば、俺は一安心ってわけだな。
I see. So I just gotta lay low until then, huh?
しかし、あのガキが理想例だとしたら、その一緒に逃げた世話係とはぐれたってことか？
But if that kid was an ideal, did she get separated from the helper who fled with her? Was there even such a person? If they were treating her so carefully, her helper should have been plenty talented in their own right. Like a skilled failure cattle or something. Would someone like that really do something like leave a child in the middle of the mountains like it were nothing? And more than anything, Mitsuji had a question. The girl she'd seen for just a moment in that great dream that became reality didn't look the least bit like a powerful ideal. Special jinxes were linked to special diabolicity. I hate them. So shouldn't ideals be kids who were clearly abnormal? That ideal girl looked only like a failure at best. And sure enough, Mitsuji's superior was regarding her pensively, as if she had the other answer.
今から言うことは、私が独自ルートで知るに至った情報。今の段階で絶対に出回るはずのない情報。
What I'm about to tell you is something I found out through my own personal sources. Shouldn't be common knowledge in any circles right now.
もったいつけるなよ。ここまでクリア漏らすわけねえだろ。
Quit lording it over me. You're not gonna back out now, are you? Not when you've come so far.
4月に失敗例の家畜が一人、学会の拘束を振り切って逃走した。
In April, there was a failure cattle who broke free from her restraints and escaped from the academia. Exclamation point?
それはちょうど4歳くらいの子供だったらしいわ。名前は確か。
It seems she was exactly 4 years old. Her name was,
黒ヤギ。
the Black Goat.
聞いたことがある。体内回帰による救済の失敗例。致命的な容量不足がどうとかって。
I've heard of it. A failure that grants salvation by returning one to the womb. I heard it had a fatal lack of capacity.
しかし待てよ。皆殺しじゃなかったのか？その上あの連中がガキ一匹にやられたってのか？
But wait, weren't they all massacred? And you mean those guys were all bested by a child?
どうやら学会側ではデータ採集のため名簿をごまかして居残り組たちを囲ってたらしい。調べた後殺すつもりで。
Seems academia faked the register of names and took the detainees into custody for data collection purposes. They planned to kill them once they were done.
だけど、黒ヤギは想定以上に危険な存在だったみたいね。
But, yes, looks like the Black Goat is even more dangerous than we imagined.
しかし、
However,
学会行為の研究者が数名、全身をバラバラにされて殺されてる。
several academia's top researchers were chopped to pieces.
マジか。
You serious?
おそらくは本人に比してかなり強力なアバターを持ってる。その上、くそ、なぜ気づかなかったのかしら。
She probably had a considerably powerful avatar. On top of that, damn it, why didn't I realize it?
生き残った連中の中には精神をやられジンクスを喪失した者もいたようよ。これってまさに。
It seems there were those who suffered mental breakdowns and lost their jinxes. Could this be?
決まりじゃねえかよ。
Well, that settles it, yeah? That jinx was a concept based on a myth of a black goat of darkness from some mythology that devoured and rebirthed all in creation. That girl, who had been declared a failure due to her limited stomach capacity, Probably possessed another perfect ability. In other words, that black goat was...
黒ヤギは魔性を食ったんだ。
The black goat devours diabolicities. She'd eaten the diabolicities of all these present when she'd escaped the academia. And after she slipped into Fujiyoshi, she'd gone on the run again, and devoured Rikako Uematsu's diabolicity.
こうか不幸かわからないわね。羊と
I
黒
think
ヤ
this
ギ
is
が
setting
ニア
up
ミスして
like...
たって事実は。
Is this setting up like a sequel that never came? Raging Loop 2? I don't know if it's good or bad, but it's a fact that the sheep and black goat just barely missed one another.
ああ、そうだな。
Yeah, you're right. What would Mitsuji have done if she'd recognized her as the black goat? Would she have abandoned her mission to the church and helping the people of Fujiyoshi to take her and flee? Or would she have presented her to the church for self-protection, offering cheap compassion along the way? That was a pointless supposition.
ジンクス使い同士は無意味なすれ違いはしないんだよな。
I thought Jinx users didn't cross paths for no reason.
ええ、無意味じゃなかったのでしょうね。
Right, which means there was a reason.
つまり黒ヤギが逃げおおせるのは必然だったってのか。
Are you saying it was necessary for the black goat to escape?
さあわからない。運命論は私も嫌い。
I wouldn't know. I hate fatalism.
ただ簡単に捕まってしまわなかったということは
However, the fact she wasn't simply caught means...
嫌な予感はしちゃうわね。
I have a bad feeling about this. What about you? The black goat was still on the run, all while concealing an exceedingly powerful jinx in her diabolicity. The problem was that it couldn't save the world. If she kept concealing it as she grew up, perhaps she would become a threat that could rival that of the imaginary wolf.
さあな。
No clue. Mitsuji didn't know. To a cattle and fugitive like her, she didn't know if the monstrous entity born into this world was like that was a bad thing. Mitsuji Misumine, through her activities in the outside world and meeting with Haruaki Fusashi, knew that the project was inhuman and abominable. They even called the innocent children they turned into monsters for the sake of the project cattle. That girl, who'd been born with a heavy burden to bear and had been abandoned by her fellow cattle like Misumine and the sheepdog, was unmistakably miserable. Didn't she have the right to take revenge on the world? And wouldn't Mitsuji herself be condemned by an entity like that girl for running away without lending a helping hand? Wisely, the adult in Mitsuji avoided answering those questions and pushed them aside.
黒ヤギのことはここだけの秘密ね。でないとあなたの正体がバレるし、上役である私の責任追及も免れない。
Let's keep all this about the black goat between us. Otherwise, the truth about you would get out, and I'd be investigated as your superior.
だな。何せリストの見落としで最重要危険人物を取り逃がしたんだ。
Yeah. After all, you did let a rather dangerous character slip through your fingers with that oversight in the list.
あなたのせいでもあるでしょ。
That was your fault too, wasn't it?
ああ、そうだ。もしかしたら知ってて逃がしたかもしれねえぜ。
Yeah, it was. Maybe I already knew and let her go.
もしそうならあなたはもっと動揺してるわよ、羊さん。生きがってるけど本来は小心で純朴でしょ、あなた。
If you really did, you'd be more shaken up, sheep-son. You put on a brave face, but deep down you're timid and honest, aren't you?
うるせえな。
Shut up.
黒ヤギか。その子にも会ってみたいわね。
The black goat, huh? I'd sure like to meet her.
会えるんじゃねえのか。ここまで深入りしちまったんだからよ。
I'm sure you will. You're already pretty deep in this after all. The bond between jinxes would likely bring them together eventually.
今後ともよろしく。
See you later.
ああ。
Yeah. Her superior now gone, Mitsuji turned back to the PC screen. She deleted the threatening walls of text she'd written and quickly began typing the fake story she'd been ordered to type up. This kind of report didn't matter anymore. To Mitsuji, the incident had only just begun. She was sure of that. End. Oh, P.S. 6 years later, violent and terrifying criminals known as the Black Goat Septuplets became well known in the world of superpowers. After this, the church successfully made contact with the Black Goat behind closed doors, and the power dynamics in the world of superpowers shifted even further. PPS. 4 years after that, the following conversation occurred in the corner of a provincial city. Oh. We're getting a PS and a PPS. Is everything in order? Yeah, but for someone who used to be your ally, you sure did take care of them pretty easily. I don't see or feel the need to draw a line between enemies and allies at the scene of a murder. Dulls you and is more trouble than it's worth. Huh? What an annoying way to put it. In any case, I'm grateful. Thanks. I would say Mi-chan and the others deserve the most credit. Anyway, you should go to your sister's place. I have no choice, so I'll have to stay out of school for a little while. Roger. Leave the printouts and notes to me. Are you okay with that? I'm asking if you're okay not going after him alongside the others. Well, we should let the two who went forward back then take lead now, don't you think? Not that any of that matters. How annoying. Oh well, it's fine. I prefer those who are more mature, composed, and craftier myself. Well, you got the last one at least. Yeah, I guess. Just how many were tricked this time again? It sounds like you have a specific person in mind who matches that criteria. Fusayuki-san. That's a weird name. Forget it. You're not even interested, right? Yeah. How annoying. Later, then. Later. PPS. PPPS. Of course, this conversation wasn't written in any of the church's records. It would be a little while after this that the Black Goat and Sheep would meet again. Okay. It's done. It's over. It's Dunyan rings, dude. No more. Big stretch. Let me check something. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna do another game tonight. I think we're just gonna call it there. I will say no, not Revelations. I tried. It was not going to work. It wasn't gonna work. Me and Revelations don't mix. I'm done with you, Raging Loop. Throw him in the trash can. No, don't throw him in the trash can. That's disrespectful. Throw him in the compost bin to be recycled into and birthed into a new thing, you know? It'll turn into something else. It's funny, I said I was gonna say what the next visual novel I was gonna do at the end of Raging Loop was, but then we realized there was more Raging Loop after the end and finale of Raging Loop. So I'll say it here, although it has now technically been said a couple times on stream, like sprinkled throughout. The next, and now that this is over, officially now, and Of the Devil is now done. The house, is it of? The house in? The house? The house of? The house? I'm looking at it really quick. The House in Fata Morgana is the next big visual novel that we're tackling on this channel. It's funny because I also yesterday recorded this month on the channel, which should go up on Sunday, and I talk about it. I talk about it a lot more there, sort of the plan and everything. So more information in that video that'll come out on Sunday morning. But yeah, The House in Fata Morgana is the next big visual novel. I'll talk about it in that video. But it just seems like the next visual novel to take on, honestly. Now, you know, the Uminekos and the Higarashis are done. I should be tackling other propped up and well-respected visual novels. And so, The House. I'm gonna just does anyone in the fandom call it The House? I'll just call it The House. The next one is gonna be The House. Now, tomorrow, I'm definitely not doing a day stream. I've got plans during the day with friends coming down to San Antonio. It's gonna be fun. There is a small chance I make stream tomorrow night. But don't count on it. And I don't know if I do make it to stream tomorrow night, what we would be doing. It could go from anything from Bubsy to more near Automata, start of Route C, to, I don't know, if I felt really adventurous, maybe we start The House in Fata Morgana. But like I said, don't count on it. Don't expect to stream tomorrow necessarily. If it happens, it'll be a happy surprise, basically. Because like I said, all day plans, and then by the time I get home late tomorrow, I'll probably be tired or need to do other things. Well-respected RIP Raging Loop. Hey, Raging Loop did what it needed to do, all right? But in the list of top visual novels, you're not going to see people list Raging Loop up there, all right? Let's just be honest with ourselves for a sec. And then it was funny because in the this month on this channel video, I talk about how Sunday maybe we start the house in Fata Morgana, but then I realized that Sunday I'd already pretty much committed a week ago that I wanted to play a big stream of Xenoblade Chronicles again on Sunday. And it's not impossible that I would do both Xenoblade and start the house in Fata Morgana. I guess that is possible. I always talk about how like I have to change around the setup. It's not impossible. It's just a little bit more work on my end going between everything. So maybe that happens. I don't know. All I'm saying is basically there will guaranteed be a stream on Sunday. It is either going to be Xenoblade Chronicles or Xenoblade and maybe the start of House of Fata Morgana. And then Saturday, there might be a stream at night. And who knows what the hell we'd start or when or if it's happening at all. So let's just say, let's guarantee stream on Sunday. Should be during the day. Don't be surprised if nothing happens tomorrow night. And then, like I said, next week at some point, over the next 6 days, the house in Fata Morgana will be started. We'll start doing that live stream. The VODs will slowly make their way onto the YouTube channel. Just like Xenoblade Chronicles streams will continue, and we'll start Route C of Nier Automata also at some point. And we'll fit in Bubsy's and his going-ons sometime next week as well. All happening. All fucking happening. And I'm very excited. It's gonna keep us busy. I'm gonna be a busy lad here on this channel. Bandwidth will be stretched for sure, for many reasons. Not only stream-wise, but just everything. But I'm up for the challenge. We'll be fine. It'll be fine. Take a deep breath. Everything will be great. Everything will be fine. So if no stream tomorrow, have a great Saturday. I'll be back Sunday, like I said. I'll be enjoying my day tomorrow. It'll be a long day. In that time, I played probably unironically about 24 hours of Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Speaking of Xenoblade, it's been, what, 46 hours since my last stream of Xenoblade? You're asking me to do math right now? What, today's Friday night, and since Saturday or Sunday afternoon? 24, 48, 96. In that time I played it's been what? Oh, since my last stream. Oh, yeah, since Wednesday's stream. Sure, yeah. Probably about 48 or 46 hours sounds right then, yeah. Just under 2 full days. Played probably unironically 24 hours of Xenoblade Chronicles. That's crazy. That's dedication. I respect it. I don't know. In my old age, I don't know if I could do something like that. Stream aside, I don't even think. At some point, I would just feel some level, the crust level would just like consume me. I'd be like, ugh. I'd start like calcifying or something maybe. Oh, I should rank the, before I meant to, I think wait, no, I'm, that might be my number age, but like mentally and personality wise, I'm about 72 years old. So you have to factor that in. I'm going to rank these stories. Boy and Girl versus In From Hell the other day. This one's by far the worst extra story. Then I'm going to say Sheet vs. Stack of Reports was pretty, I mean, it's just like fucking whatever. I was just ready for it to be done. And then Blockhead versus Final Boss is the middle. I think this one was fine. You got some nice little moments. Huntress versus Bear, then a very close second to first. I generally liked the idea. Obviously, it's the more main characters and seeing them kind of like, even just seeing some interactions and doing things right after the main story was cool. And then I'll say Ryder versus Mystery Station was the funnest thing. It was kind of bizarre, but the full lean into like a little weird horror story was actually kind of fun. it was kind of weird. It had some weird moments, and of course, the weird supernatural kind of element to it is whatever. Your mileage will vary on that, but it was kind of good. Plus, more Mafia. So that's the ranking of the extra stories. And then Revelations mode that we barely scratched. That's far deep into the nether realms of this. And then the main campaign story is somewhere on that spectrum. Take your pick. Place it wherever. I'm gonna be deleting Raging Loop finally off the stream. How long has Raging Loop been kicking around? It feels like forever. Holy shit. Let me check something. Oh my god. The first VOD on YouTube got published February 1st. So obviously the stream happened a little towards the end of January. So from end of January to today is May 29th. This game has been kicking around the channel. That is almost a full year. No, not full year, a full half year. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. Almost a full half year. I almost I can't even think. This is why we're not going to it. This is why we're not going to a second game tonight. I'm just so out of it. No, it isn't. It's almost a 4 months? 4 months is almost a full half year. If you squint, 4 months turns into almost 6 months. All right, let's not debate about it. Come on. Don't tell me 4 isn't close to 6. No, it's 4 months. I'm doing the math correct. January into May. Oh my god, we're all delirious. We're fucking it's been a long week. It's been a long week. All right. Have a nice weekend. I'm looking forward to the future for the next month. I'm looking forward to the month of June. Should be a fun month, both on the channel and otherwise. House in Fata Morgana, start. Finish bubmanXIV. Start Nier Automata Route C. Xenoblade Chronicles will continue. I feel like we've barely scratched in that. We're probably 2% of the way through that game. Other small stuff. I talk about other small stuff in this month on the channel. There's some outright things. A wheel spin at some point, probably. I mentioned that in the video as well, but I'll say it here. We'll probably spin the wheel in like the middle of the month or something. By that time, you know, Nier will probably be done as well. It's great. Great times ahead. I'm saying it like I'm trying to convince myself. All right, take it easy. Have a nice night. Until maybe tomorrow, but most likely Sunday.